Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Leadership Satsang. I'm your leadership coach, Yukti Kapoor Mendiratha. Thank you so much for joining me live again. Really sorry for a little bit of a delay. As I was sharing earlier, we do this transformational leadership program. It's a 3-day program, Monday to Wednesday, so sometimes takes a little longer. But I'm right here, as promised, as committed, no matter what. It's also the time that I so look forward to because it's our time together. Thank you so much for all the feedback that we've got on Leadership Satsang. It is very, very encouraging for me to keep doing what I'm doing when I hear from you that this is adding value, it is making sense, you want to repost it, you want to reshare it. These are just indicators for me to know that all of this is making some sense and adding value and helping you in some ways. So thank you so much for doing that. Today is the last Tuesday of the month, which means it's an open Q&A, open house, which means you truly, genuinely get to bring it on. Bring on your questions, your existing challenges with leadership. But before that, drop me a hi in the comments so that I know who all are here with me live right now. Give me a hi and tell me which location you're joining me from. I will also be curious to know if it is raining there because thankfully in Mumbai it's not as we speak, but it's been pouring like crazy, crazy. So tell me, how is it for you all? I hope you're all safe and sound wherever you are. Please take care of yourself as much as it sounds and looks harmless. Rains can be crazy. So stay safe and do what you need to continue with your work and while you stay safe. That's most important. So Adil, Ravi Das, good to have you here. Jitendra, a very, very big hi. Urvashi, hi to you too. Parimala, wonderful. Good to have you here. Adil from Noida, wonderful. Hi, Shilpa. Wonderful to have you here. Raj from Kolkata. Awesome. I hear that it's raining almost in every part of the country. So once again, enjoy the rains and also stay safe. Thank you so much for joining in. Missed out the last session, Hiren. You're not allowed to do that. Okay. I'm kind of used to having you here. So make sure you make time for the sessions. It's just kidding. Any and every time you hear means a lot, Hiren. So thank you for joining in. Mamta is here. Superb. Hi, Dinesh from Adodra. Sanjay. Hi, Vishal. Superb. Zubeda, what a beautiful name. Hi, Zubeda from Hyderabad. So good to have you here. This is your session, right? Today, I have no agenda. My agenda is to be here with you, for you, at your service, which means I want to know from you what is stopping your growth, what is holding you back, what are some of the real challenges you're facing. You see, we try to learn consciously, we try to read, we try to follow a few people who make sense to us, but not every time are we able to apply that knowledge in real practical scenarios, right? There are some challenges we're facing in life and we don't know how to translate the knowing into the doing. So I often say this, and I'm going to say this once again: leadership is not just about exploring the unknown, right? So a lot of people say a leader needs to have the courage to explore the unknown. That's true, but that's not the complete truth. What is important to look at is what do we do with what we already know. It's good to know more, it's good to explore the unknown. But what's even more important is to understand what is already known and am I practicing what I know? Do I do what I know? So if knowing is this much, doing is just this much, isn't it? So let's expand the doing to what I know I should do, and then continue with the exploration in the space of the unknown so that we know more. They both need to go hand in hand. But if I were pushed to rank them in some order to say, tell me what is more important, hands down, doing what you know is far more important than knowing more. So let's not get crazy about buying new books, watching more how-to videos, or signing up for courses because you have the time or money for it. Let us first see what is needed, and of what I know to fix that situation, how much am I able to do? How much am I able to apply the knowing into doing? That's what is important for us to be successful. And that is what does justice to the time, effort, and money you spend in this learning journey with me or anybody else, right? So there are 3 resources you need: time, money, effort. And all 3 are very, very precious resources. If you're going to invest these resources in your learning, make sure you learn them in a way that it is practical and it is applicable. Now tell me, what are some of the challenges you're facing, which are practical challenges, but the knowledge is not getting applied? Or maybe there is some more knowledge that we need to seek to understand how best to handle the situation. Okay, Hiren, let's pick up your question and you say, I'm facing on a personal level, I'm missing out on personal professional life balance in the early stage of my leadership journey. Okay, brilliant question. And there are so many articles, posts, videos, etc. that we've seen. And yet, many of us are stuck here. Many of us, Hiren, we either get carried away with the love we have for what we do, or we just get carried away with a sense of responsibility because we should earn, we should make money, we should bring food to the table. And that makes us desperate and insecure about our professional lives. And that's where we lose the balance, right? So how do we get that balance is a very, very important question to ponder over. But before that, let's understand the balance that we are seeking is not a straightforward function of division of time, right? It's not just 4 hours here and 4 hours there and now it looks balanced. So the balance is the function of the quality that you bring in whatever you do. So listen to this carefully. There are different stages of our career. When we start as an executive, which means I'm an individual rock star. I do what I do and I do it really well. Now, the moment I'm responsible for other people and getting work done, it's a different skill set altogether. I need to learn a few other things. Some of us find a way to learn it consciously. Some of us are still learning on the job. But whatever that process is, you kind of put pieces together and learn what is needed to be done. As you progress and move higher up in this corporate ladder or in your business journey, you will realize that the ask for your time will also vary, and it should. Because if that's not happening, then there is something you need to tweak. Now, initially, the time that it will take for you to do what you have to do well professionally will be a function of your productivity levels, right? If you're able to do a task today in 45 minutes, can you upskill yourself to do that in 30 minutes? Can you upskill yourself to do that in lesser time? This is the individual ask early on in your career, in the early stages, when you are responsible for the doing. Then you have to focus on your productivity to be able to execute the work. As you go up the ladder, it is about making the team more productive. That's when other set of skills are important. So what is needed if we are taking too long to complete the tasks that we have picked up or committed to, we need to see what are the skill gaps that I have. The skill gaps are areas related to communication, which means, am I delegating well? Am I negotiating well with my seniors about what I'm ready to commit and what I cannot commit, right? Am I able to effectively communicate what the team needs to do? Am I able to connect with other people and make them feel included, which brings me to another skill called collaboration. So in short, what I'm encouraging you to do is to take time out, maybe 10 minutes, and run a personal SWOT. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What are some of your strengths and weaknesses? What are some of the skill gaps that you have noticed or observed about yourself? And what could be a plan of action to cover those gaps? The moral of the story is to be able to get more from less time spent when it comes to your professional life. Now let's come to the personal life. Irrespective of whatever time you get herein, see if you can improve the quality of time spent with your loved ones, which means when you are with them, you are just and only with them. There is no other distraction, there is no other commitment, which also means that you need to be assertive if required to let people know where your boundaries are, where your personal space begins, so that they know that this is an off work time for Hire. This is when he is with himself or his family. And those boundaries are very, very important to keep any relationship healthy, whether personal or professional. So work-life balance is not a straightforward question. It's not a math question. It's not about dividing your 24 hours more smartly. It's about bringing in the skills which need to be learned, and the lack of those skills are creating the imbalance. So first we identify what those skills are, and then we consciously work upon them. I hope this is giving you some sense of direction here in where to start from, and we can go levels deeper and explore this together, but I'm giving you a head start for now. Adil, I'm picking up your comment. You say, ma'am, in case a subordinate of mine makes a mistake and I just rectify it silently and not report it to the management, will I be a good leader? Very, very good and practical question again, Adil. So what I see you doing is to cover the mistake of your subordinate so that management does not get to know and this person doesn't lose his or her impression on the management. So I think the intention with which you're doing this is commendable, and I am looking at you as a leader who is bringing in that parental instinct to keep the team secure and protected, and I respect that. At the same time, we do disservice to our loved ones and people we care for, which includes our subordinates, when we don't tell them where they are going wrong. So as much as it might not be required for us to highlight the mistake or make it visible to the world that I am the one who's corrected it, it is equally important for you to let your subordinate know what the mistake was and what are some of the ways in which they can learn from it and ensure that it's not repeated. Right? When we keep protecting them for a long time is when this sense of service becomes a disservice. It's how you will allow your child to fall 100 times before he or she starts to walk, right? You will not cut short that learning because it's important. They have to go through that process to be able to walk and get that balance. And that's what we need to do with our teams as well. I hope I could answer your question, Adil, and happy to have other leaders in the room share their comments on these questions as well now or later. Would love to know what are your thoughts on these questions. I'm picking up one more. Mamta says, challenging to connect to people I meet virtually. Some even do not turn on camera. It's hard to connect just with audio. I couldn't have agreed more, Mamta. I'm just coming out of my program, Transformational Leadership Program that I was talking about. And I keep telling this, and there are people here in the room from that program and they know exactly what I'm saying. So we've got Parimala here, we've got Ravi Das here from the program, and they'll tell you how many times in the session do I have to keep telling them, put your video on, you will learn more. And it's true, really, it helps you to focus if you put your video on and show 100% into the room. For some reason, people still choose to sit back and not connect. There are very few ways that I can put out, and I would love to learn from you all if you have some tips and tricks that have worked for you, because I think virtual meetings are here to stay for a long, long time. They're going nowhere. At best, we will look at a hybrid, way to work, but it'll obviously also and always include online working. So we need to know how to connect with people virtually. The best and easiest ways to show up with your videos on. It also shows your commitment towards being a part of the team. But when that's not done, thankfully, we can see participants, right? All the participants in the room. And once in a while in the meeting, you could pick up participants who've put their videos off. I'll take Zoom as a platform because I use it extensively. So in Zoom, you have two options, who has video on and who has their audio on. So you will see that these are the people with their videos off, like if it's a large group, I'm saying. So that makes it easier. And you can just pick on these people and take their name and invite them to share their comments or views once or twice in the meeting. So for example, I could pick up a name, say Dinesh, and say, hey Dinesh, you're in the room. Thank you for joining in. What do you think about what we are discussing? And that brings them more in the room. Also, let's be mindful of the fact that sometimes it could be a very genuine reason for which somebody is not able to put their video on, and that might not be an intentional issue. We can see that if they are participative in the chat, which means as a moderator or the person who's leading the meeting, give reasons for the group to be more interactive and engaged in the chat window as well, right? So maybe ask them how they're feeling, which I do very often in my sessions. For example, how you feeling? Does it sound good? Say SG. Do you want me to share more details on this? Say BIO, bring it on. And that encourages people who have not been able to put their video on to still be connected with you and engaged with you, and they will share these responses in the chat. So keep the chat alive and make sure that you recognize and appreciate people when they share their thoughts even if they don't have their videos on. It could really be a very, very genuine reason why some of them cannot put it on. So I think, Mamta, that's what's worked for me. I hope this helps you. And like I said, others in the room right now, please do share if something else works for you. That can work for us too. Would love to learn. All right, Dinesh, let's see what you were saying here. Sometimes stammering problem occurs in my leadership and sentence delivered just too fast. So how to overcome stammering, Dinesh? Wonderful. So as I understand, maybe stammering is not an issue per se. I'm assuming this, please correct me if I'm wrong. It's not as if you stammer often, but sometimes when you are playing this leadership role, maybe in a stress environment, you land up stammering and you're observing that about yourself. With that assumption, I'm making an attempt to answer. So the answer to this question is in your question itself. You said that when you're stammering, you're delivering sentences faster. So the most important thing to do is to slow down. If this is your normal pace at which you talk, then talk at a lower pace. Slow down a little bit and give yourself time to form the sentences and articulate your thoughts in a better way. Give yourself some time to process what you're thinking and decide on what would be the best way to put it forward. As you noticed, when I'm answering this question for you right now, I am trying to demonstrate what this could look like. You know the pace at which I normally talk, and you see the difference in this pace at which I'm talking right now as I'm answering your question. Because when I'm slowing down, I'm getting a lot more time to put my thoughts together and share with you. The bonus is that when I slow down this way, I'm also able to give time for people to comprehend and absorb what I'm saying in a better manner. Because I'm going slow and I'm giving them that much more time to understand and comprehend what's being said. Pause is a very important part of speech. So when I teach public speaking and take up those courses, we emphasize a lot on pauses. Bringing in pauses at the right time, the right reason, in a right manner is very important. For now, please consider pause to be a part of your script. When you are sharing something, especially if it is important, allow some pauses to come in. These moments of silence, where you allow people to process what you're saying, and at the same time, you give yourself a little more time to frame your sentences. Let's start with this, Dinesh, and then we will learn a few more tips as we continue being together in this learning journey. I hope this helped, Dinesh. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Hiren, for that validation. Ramesh, this might just be the last question. Let's see. So you ask, how about subordinates who not being sincere and mostly don't meet expectations? Wonderful question. See, when it comes to expectations, we need to look at leadership with a little bit of a flavor of spirituality. And that's why I believe that leadership cannot be deprived of spirituality. They go hand in hand. Spiritual leadership is about understanding yourself as a person before you play the role of a leader. Now, expectations are something that we're all struggling with, whether it's our personal space or our professional space, isn't it? We have some expectations from our loved ones that are not met with. The same is true for our professional relationships as well. The problem with expectations is that they're not always articulated well. A lot of these expectations we have are assumptions. We assume the other person would understand, and the other person assumes that they are living up to it already. So when we complain, they are rattled and frustrated and irritated that no matter how much I do for you, it's never enough. This boss is never happy. We work so hard. Our families don't get to see our face, and we hear in office all the time. And yet this man is just so dissatisfied. Why? Because there is a disconnect in what you're calling as an expectation and what their expectations are, or they think yours are. So what needs to be looked at is how to make communication more effective, how to bring in more transparency in what is expected of them. Best way to do that is to put that in writing, not limited to the KRA sheet that HR gives us, that write down the KRA for your team members and then do this quarterly or 6-monthly appraisal. That's part of the process. But what I'm talking about is simple English understandable sentences where you put down what is an agreed expectation between you and the team member. This is what I expect you to do in this manner. Is this agreeable? And this is why it is important. Can we achieve this together? What support would you need? What would be some of the success indicators that tells us that we are on the right path? What would be some of the red flags that we need to pen down against this expectation that tells us we are going off track? And this needs to be a two-way communication, Ramesh. And as much as it might not be practical at every level, at your one down level, which means for your directs, it's a very, very important conversation to have early on, so that their efforts are also aligned to what you expect them to deliver towards that bigger picture, the vision that you have for the team. So this part of the communication is often compromised when we restrict it to just the HR exercise, the KRA exercise. The essence of it is what I'm saying. Okay, that's the intention with which this is made part of the progress or the process. Sorry, it is part of the process because HR is encouraging you to bring in this understanding and put it clearly on paper. But the way it is conducted sometimes doesn't do justice to the intention behind the process. So let's simplify that. Let's put it in simple words and get the consensus on the table to understand what these expectations are and how will we know? How will we know that they are met with or not? What are going to be some of those key performance indicators, KPIs as we call them, Ramesh? I think once that is established, it is important to do periodic reviews. Now, I'm giving you a suggestion from the coaching parlance. So when I take up one-on-one coaching sessions, with anybody, irrespective of how many other coaches you've had in your life, or this is your first ever coaching session, irrespective of how experienced you are, or is this, like your first job, nothing of it matters. For me, my one-on-one coaching sessions always start with weekly frequency, right? So every week I need to have one session with you when we start our journey together. And over a period of time, that becomes fortnightly. And then it becomes monthly. You know what I'm saying? So initially, when we are kind of getting to know each other, setting the processes, aligning ourselves to the bigger picture, the vision, we need to meet more often, connect more often to touch base and see how we are progressing, which means weekly reviews with your team. Some teams agree to do daily hurdles. And daily hurdles does not mean 1 hour of meeting every day. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Be clear about your agenda. These are the 3 things I'm going to check. 5 minutes and 10 minutes, we're done. So it could be a daily morning hurdle, or it could be a weekly review. But don't go beyond that, would be my suggestion. Again, depends upon the nature of your business and the kind of teams and their maturity level. But I hope you're getting my point. We need to kind of look at the frequency and then spread it out over a period of time as the team matures and start delivering up to your expectations. All right, that's a wonderful question. Maybe I'll stretch myself to take another one. And the last one now, Anand says, migrating from operational thinking to strategic, specificity of communication to senior leadership. Yeah, okay. So my understanding of your question is, how do I move from doing the job and being stuck in the job to being more strategic and looking at the job, like being able to see what this whole madness is all about instead of being a part of it and getting stuck at an operational level. Is that your question, Anand? Just give me a yes in the chat box so that it confirms that I've got your question right. Yeah, so I think what you're asking is, how do I unstuck myself from the operational ask of my business and develop more strategic way of thinking? Okay, so with that assumption, yes, okay, thank you for confirming that, Anand. Now, this is a very, very typical challenge for a senior leader as much as it is a challenge for a business owner, right? We get stuck in the doing, and then we have very little time or energy left to plan the way forward and bring in the visionary that we can be. Now, what it takes initially is some conscious split of time. Now, here we really need to quantify time. Now, there is a technique called time boxing. Time boxing is when you box a specific time in your calendar for one task which is important but not yet urgent. Strategic thinking fits into this criteria very well, which means maybe I decide, for example, every Friday, 5 to 6, I'm going to time box for building strategy for my team for the next week or for the next month, for the next year, for the next 6 months, whatever is that time horizon for you. Every hour, once a week, on that specific time or day of the week, I'm going to sit and do just this activity. So I'm time boxing my calendar to do only strategic thinking. As a business owner myself, I can't imagine running a business without time boxing for strategic thinking. Otherwise, we will always continue to be at the same level. Growth is almost impossible if I don't get myself out of the doing and plan what should be the way forward. How do we expand? How do we grow bigger? Right? So that requires conscious effort and conscious time allotted to this as an important activity. And hence I said important, but not yet urgent. It is important, and hence it requires to be time boxed. So now you need to look into your calendar and decide on what is that off peak hour or weekday for you, where you can allot some time from 1 to 2 hours, which is going to be focused thinking on strategy building. Outside of this as a resource available to you, time as a resource available to you to develop strategic thinking, it also requires upskilling at a knowledge level. So if we need to enhance our knowledge and understand what it means to be strategic, we need to work on critical thinking. That's a skill to be learned, and there are various resources available to learn that, including what we offered at SBY Academy. We have a course on critical thinking, and that is one of the few courses available where you can learn and get the knowledge required to become more strategic as a leader. What are some of the tools available to you that makes you more strategic? But before that, we need to bring in the practice of time boxing to focus on this activity as one of the key activities for you as a leader. So let's start with that, Anand. And since we are connected and you are part of TLP anyway, I'm going to tell you more about developing this as a skill and the knowledge that you need to acquire to become a strategic thinker and a strategic leader. With that, we will have to wind up today's session. Time up. I see a lot of other questions that I have not been able to pick, but trust me, my team is here as well, and they've made a note of every single question you put out here, which could be a question that I might pick up in the weeks to come. So do look out for our next session every Tuesday, 8 p.m. IST, Indian Standard Time. And I will try my level best to do whatever I can and share whatever I know that can help you to become a more effective leader. Thank you so much for joining me here today. It means a lot. God bless you all. I'll see you real soon.